The Kirby series has been through a lot, to say the least. It has been around for more than 30 years, yet aside from maybe its more dedicated fans, people still have a lot to learn about it. Between misconceptions, toxic positivity, and underappreciation of elements for which other franchises are unanimously praised, being a fan has been harder than we'd like to admit, even after the success of a notable release in 2022. There's already a couple of retrospectives on the franchise available on YouTube, leading one to ask if there's even a point in making another, aside from sharing a personal opinion. In this series, I plan to share my thoughts on media, official or otherwise, regarding this IP that has resonated with me for more than half a decade for one reason or another. And while it be foolish to act like my videos will change how the web sees them, I'm still one guy at the end of the day. I'll try to give you a new perspective on aspects you may have taken for granted. Who knows? Maybe you'll come out of it looking at them in a different manner. So with that out of the way, it's time to start what I'd like to call the ultimate Kirby retrospective. And what better way to start than at the beginning?
Meet Kirby, a happening dude with an appetite. He's a vacuum cleaner and he's always hungry. The more he's got going down, the more he's blowing up. And the more nasties he puffs away. Enter the castle and see what's cooking. Don't let him catch you napping. The higher he flies in the game, the harder you work. If that's hard to swallow, remember this. Zone out and he'll eat you up.
The year is 1990. Michael Jackson is one of the biggest celebrities in the world. The first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie premieres in theaters, and Nintendo is about to release the Super Nintendo in Japan, with Mario World as its debut game. After saving the video game industry and revolutionizing the way we see digital entertainment, it's needless to say they were on a roll. If only the same could be said about their second-party developers at the time. Formerly known as Alken, the way HAL Laboratory started as a company is fundamentally different from how we know it today. Working on unlicensed ports of Namco arcade games for home computers, before working for Nintendo in the mid-80s. Mostly to assist in the development of their Famicom interpretations of arcade playthings like pinball, or sports like golf, but they would also make their own games like the Eggerland series or Revenge of the Gator. Sakurai joined the company around this period, quite possibly the hardest as a matter of fact, as the development of Metal Slayer Glory did not go as planned. They had to cut half of the script so it could fit in a Famicom cartridge. Rendering character portraits was a pain in the neck, as they had to make pixel art that was convincing, while not wasting space that could have been used on polishing other, more important aspects, and the game didn't sell enough copies to make up for its budget. By 1991, the company was on the edge of bankruptcy, and it could have easily become just another fleeting memory, but Nintendo decided that it would help those who still had faith in HAL if Iwata was appointed as its new president. This is when they went back to an idea Sakurai proposed 1 year prior, a sketch of a circle-shaped creature and their signature mouthful said, "No, you didn't mishear it." Initially, it was kept as a placeholder for a bigger idea, but the developing team grew to love it to the point where they decided to keep it in the final build, especially because of how easy it is to draw. As for the game, it was made to be easy as a response to how releases from the NES were handled, reusing content due to how little space cartridges had, and an above average difficulty to justify the price. But that also meant that there wasn't a true game for beginners. This is why Sakurai decided to include a generous health system, unlimited continues, and the character's core abilities to inhale and spit out enemies, and to float. It used to go by the name of Avukadze Popopo, of Popopo of the Spring Breeze, and then by Twinkle Star Popo, and it featured Popopo, not surprisingly, as its main character, named like so, to fit with other names that repeated a syllable 3 times. Dedede, Lololo, Lalala, and his homeland, Pupupuland, localized as Dreamland in non-Asian countries. However, they realized that the name Popopo probably wasn't going to resonate with kids outside of Japan, so they reached out to their American branch, asking for suggestions that would make the purple sound like the hero he was supposed to be. Of these names, Gasper was one of them, but Kirby just stuck due to how such a strong sounding name clashed with his cute appearance. There's a speculation that they named him Kirby to honor John Kirby, a lawyer that defended Nintendo of America during the trial accusing them of plagiarizing King Kong in the arcade game Donkey Kong, but that's never been truly confirmed. My best guess is that they may have suggested that name for this reason without telling their Japanese colleagues. I mean, John was given a pre-release copy of the game as a reward, so there is a non-zero chance. Another old myth that nowadays is less widespread is that there was an argument between developers about what color it should have been. This frankly never happened. The simple truth is that it was always meant to be pink, but only Sakurai was aware of this detail before Kirby's adventure. Some people thought he was yellow like Pac-Man, while others thought he was white as a ghost. Miyamoto commented on this distinction in a developer interview of Kirby's adventure, saying that when he saw him with a different color, it felt really fresh. So then, why is he not pink in American and European promotional material, but he is in the Japanese promotional material? Who knows? Concept art for this game always had him changing colors. This could have been another case of that inconsistency. Either way, after the name changes for the main character and some enemies, HAL released Kirby's Dream Land. Whether it was too different from the usual catalog or not, didn't matter. By this point, after the Metal Slader Glory fiasco, all they needed was a successful release. And a successful release it was. The game would end up selling 5 million copies and remained the best seller in the series for almost 3 decades, eventually beaten by Kirby and the Forgotten Land in late 2022. But enough about history, let's talk about the game itself. The premise is quite unique compared to anything you saw at the time. Whereas the first Mario game has you saving a princess, the first Mega Man game has you fighting against your robot brothers corrupted by a mad scientist, and the first Sonic game has you rescuing other animals and showing a bold doctor that nature triumphs over technology. The first Kirby game is about reclaiming the food from the aforementioned Dreamland stolen by a fat penguin. A simple fight for what's right story, but with different motives. Despite being on rather limited hardware, Kirby himself showcases many abilities that would be prominent in later 2D titles. He can jump, fly, inhale, and spit out objects and enemies, but he cannot run, slide, or copy their abilities. His trademark skill wouldn't be conceived until the next entry. For now, the only way to defeat enemies and bosses is to use their weapons whenever they're thrown or start projectiles. But that doesn't mean the foundation for this idea wasn't present. In these 5 stages, you can find various items along the way. Some heal you, like this Maximum Tomato, while others can be used as stronger attacks. There's Bomb, which can be spat out and move horizontally to defeat multiple enemies. Mike, which is pretty much a prototype for the copy ability with the same name. Super Spicy Curry and Mint Leaf, which make Kirby's breath smell funny and shoot deadly puffs of air. And the Invincible Candy Witch. Okay, I think you can tell what it does. And then there's the stages themselves. You get your standard grass level in the form of green greens, pay a visit to Lololo and Lalala in their castle, relax, except not really, at the float islands, explore the depths of the sky on the soft bubbly clouds, and then things off with Mount Dedede, a boss rush of the previous boss fights, showing how far you've come, and then defeating the Great King himself. While the places themselves are far from the most innovative, I appreciate the way the game handles interpreting those themes. The second stage in particular is a perfect example of this. If you were tasked to create a castle level in an 8-bit video game, what would you imagine? Very likely something threatening, full of scary looking obstacles, spikes, hazards. Sure, some of that stuff is here to an extent, but it's mostly a walk in the park, filled to the brim with elements inspired by other franchises, from the two-faced masks to the silly ghosts, and Kirby's take on a Jack-in-the-Box-esque enemy. Don't forget the bosses and owners of this castle, who are inspired by the main characters in the Edgarland/Adventures of Lololo series. And I get why it was ditched, but man, I wish that Chucky appeared in more games, along with its little question mark box. But the best part of the game has got to be the music, hands down. For being one of its first soundtracks, and ignoring a few 6s out of 10s, which are short tunes anyway, Jun Ishikawa knocked it out of the park with the soundtrack for this title. Welcome to Dreamland is the perfect way to tell the player that they're gonna have a good time. Green Green is one of my favorite first level themes for many platformer, easily rivaling the overworld theme from Super Mario Bros. Bubbly Clouds is the embodiment of the phrase "head in the clouds" in music form. Mount Dedede is a prototype of what would become Dedede's theme, and if I'm being honest, I prefer listening to the melody in its higher key, although it's impossible not to miss the second part, along with all the other tracks and jingles that we'll hear again and again throughout the franchise. And yet, when I play the game itself, I can't help but feel like there should have been more content. Now, Sakurai has claimed he made the pixel art first and the concept art later, so it's possible that more levels came to fruition, but they were removed to save space and keep the game in a GB cartridge. Remember, the space they had to work with was 512 kilobits. That's a little over half a megabyte. Not a lot, but even still, I feel like it ends too soon, even by short game standards. I just don't feel that sense of completeness when I beat it, especially as a more skilled player. But hey, at least once you finish it, you get to learn a code that unlocks extra mode, a harder version of the game, and a recurring feature in the series later on. It's an experiment worth making. This is one of the more divisive aspects of the game. Some like it because of how different it is from other hard mods in the series, and think the difficulty is fair, while others don't. And I definitely stand by the latter opinion. I appreciate the effort put into making the game harder, other than cutting your life system in half and maybe forcing you to play it in one sitting. The effort put into making unique versions of standard enemies just for this mod is amazing, but it's not something I come back to unless I'm aiming for 100%. There's a stark contrast from the regular campaign and this one, and the biggest offenders by far are the boss fights. All of them have a pattern that's different from their normal mode counterpart, if only slightly, and it's a decent idea on paper, but getting to fight them can and will cause you to lose multiple health points, and while Krakow is arguably just as easy as his normal mode counterpart, and Wispy Woods, Lololo and Lalala aren't too bad, wait until you see the other two. Kabula and Dedede are not messing around. They will fly to the screen from left to right, from up to down, and vice versa, giving you very little time for you to react. You better have full health by the time you reach them, or else you're as good as dead. This ends up being frustrating, especially in the final level, simply by proxy of having to beat all 5 of them, and already losing a ton of health points and lives during the rematches. Thankfully, if you do game over and decide to continue, the stage will pick up at the last boss you beat. Oh, and also, if you beat the extra mod, you get access to the code to activate config mod, which changes your starting lives and health system. Don't worry, I tend to forget about it too. All in all, I would never call Kirby's Dream Land a bad game. It's definitely a competent release, and from the early 90s, this is perhaps the best platformer on the Game Boy, next to Mario Land 2. The problem is looking at it from the perspective of someone who has played or learned about the series' most recent games before this one. In the present day, this is still a good game, but the things I like about it are done in a lot of other games in the series in a similar manner, if not better. Kirby's Dream Land may have been a decent introduction to the Pink Puffball and his nemesis, but it's the next entry that will turn this simple idea into a fully fledged IP and define what the series is all about.